I woke up just like any other day, sunlight leaking through the blinds, birds arguing outside. I made coffee, the one thing that still reminds me of routine and stability. I glanced at my phone while it charged, already bracing myself for a quiet morning. My mother's text popped up. "Hope you're well, sweetie." No mention of what day it was. No excitement. Just that same clipped kindness I've grown used to. I remember organizing family parties, my mother handing me invitation lists, ribbons, ceremony favors, photo layouts. I made sure everyone had a seat, the napkins folded just so. I thought those efforts meant something. I thought effort meant presence. But today, there is no anniversary note, no party prep, no hint that anything is coming. The date passes without fanfare. I move through coffee, toast, routines. Everything feels like yesterday's echo. At lunch, I scroll through Facebook. My heart stops. A cousin's post. Best party ever for the best couple. Happy 25th anniversary, Mom and Dad. I freeze. I'm not tagged. I wasn't mentioned. I wasn't invited. The image shows Mom and Dad, siblings, cake, champagne, not a hint of my name. Betrayal isn't loud, it's the absence of acknowledgement. It's silences filling rooms where I used to hear laughter after my name was called. I flash back, me arranging the balloons when I was 16, me canceling my own plans to drive Dad to a doctor appointment, whispering with Mom about cake designs when she asked for help. These memories feel rewritten, invisible now. I ask, did they forget me? Or did they choose to exclude me? I pull out my phone, compose a message. I saw the post, wanted to say, but I closed the app. Maybe they had a reason. Maybe it wasn't meant to sting. My friend's voice floats in my head. They erased you. Part of me wants to call them, expose it. But another part of me knows peace comes from knowing truth, not from shouting it. Later, I drive by their house. Warm light flickers through windows. I clutch the envelope in my bag, the envelope with the documents for the trust I set up quietly in their name, the surprise gift I thought would bridge the distance. Engine idling, I sit for a long moment. Laughter from inside drifts out to me. I open the envelope, then fold it back without letting it out of my bag. The night air cools my breath. I breathe in, and I realize the silence tonight is louder than any words they could ever say. The next day, I went out to run a few errands, not because I needed anything urgent, mostly just to stay busy, anything to keep my mind off last night's silence. I figured a quick grocery run might reset my mood. It was the kind of day where the world felt indifferent. Gray skies, quiet parking lots, soft hum of engines pulling in and out. Just normal. Harmless. I parked, grabbed a cart, and tried to focus on things like milk, eggs, and whether I had enough laundry detergent. As I walked back to my car, bags in hand, I noticed Raina's SUV parked a few rows down. I paused. She hadn't seen me. For a moment, I considered waving or walking over, but I didn't, not after what happened. As I was loading my groceries into the trunk, I heard her voice, clear, loud. She was standing a few feet away, leaning against her car, on the phone. "I mean, honestly," she said, laughing, "it was better without her. You know how she gets, always turning things into a sob story." I didn't move. My hands froze on the shopping bag. The air suddenly felt heavy, thicker than it had any right to be. She went on, chuckling like she was remembering something funny. She would have brought her spreadsheets. You know, with those little folded napkins again. Too much. Then came the blow I didn't expect. Mallory handled it way better. Aileen's always trying too hard, like she needs it more than we do. My body stayed still, but inside, something shifted. It wasn't just that I hadn't been invited. It was that they didn't want me there. Not out of forgetfulness, out of preference. As I pulled away from the parking lot, Raina still hadn't seen me. She never looked up. Maybe she wouldn't have cared if she did. The drive home was quiet, no music, just the sound of my own thoughts folding in on themselves. I stared straight ahead, jaw tight, eyes dry, not crying, just emptied out. There's a difference. I replayed the words in my head, over and over. Better without her. Always trying too hard. They weren't whispers, they were decisions. Confirmation that the story I'd been telling myself, that maybe it was an honest mistake, wasn't true. Mallory once asked me to teach her how to fold those napkins, said I had a gift for it. I remember feeling touched at the time. Raina had texted me 2 weeks ago asking if I had a good caterer. I gave her 3 names. She never responded. All of that, I now realized, was them taking what they needed, then pushing me out once they had it. I thought about confronting Raina. I even typed a message. I heard what you said in the parking lot. I stared at it for 5 minutes, then deleted it. What would that change? Would she apologize? Or would she just play dumb? I sat with my therapist that evening, told him everything. What if they didn't forget me? I said. What if they just never respected me in the first place? He didn't answer right away, just watched me like he was measuring something in my face. Then he said, "You can't argue with people who benefit from misunderstanding you." That sentence hit harder than anything Raina had said. Later that night, I scrolled through Instagram. Raina had posted again, a video clip, her husband, Max, raising a glass. "To drama-free celebrations," he said, smirking. The room behind him burst into laughter. The caption read, "Finally peaceful." I watched it 3 times. It wasn't just passive, it was aimed. And it worked. I showed the clip to my best friend over coffee. She didn't say anything at first, just handed my phone back and said, "They're not your family anymore?" But that part, I couldn't accept. Not yet. I still believed. Or maybe I just still wanted to believe. That night, after washing the dishes and feeding the cat, I pulled out my journal. I started writing. Not feelings, facts. What Raina said, what Max posted, what they didn't say. This wasn't just grief anymore. It was evidence. If they're going to rewrite the story, I wrote, I'm going to make sure my chapter ends on my terms. Sunlight spilled through the blinds, cutting lines across my bed, but it didn't reach me. I felt colder than the night before, like my body had registered something my heart hadn't fully caught up to yet. I reached for my phone, hoping, maybe stupidly, that there'd be a message, a call, something. Nothing. The family group chat still sat muted at the bottom of my app list. I tapped it. Unread messages from days ago. I scrolled up, down. Nothing new. Then, just as I was about to close it, a notification blinked in. Raina had posted a video. Anniversary recap. I stared at the screen. My thumb hovered over it for a full minute. Don't. Just don't. But I did. Curiosity's a dangerous thing. The video started with soft piano music, one of those stock tunes people use for wedding montages. There were candles flickering, close-ups of glasses clinking, the whole room glowing like some fairy tale. Then came the slideshow. Pictures of our parents through the years. Their wedding day, family vacations, birthdays, grandkids holding up handmade signs, smiles, hugs, laughter. I leaned in, squinting. I knew that beach. That was the trip I paid for after Mom lost her job. But there I was. Nowhere. The hospital scene next. Dad smiling, propped up on a pillow after his knee replacement. I was there every night. Every damn night. That whole summer blurred into coffee cups and late-night pharmacy runs. Not a trace. Another photo flashed. Raina, Mallory, even Max holding a cake. Still nothing. My stomach twisted as the final frame lingered. A quote. Family is who shows up. That was it. I didn't even realize I was screaming until I felt the strain in my throat. My face was pressed into a pillow, muffling the sound. Not crying, no tears left, just raw, vocal grief. I grabbed my phone, flung it across the couch. It bounced, landed face down. So that's it. I don't exist now. All those years, missed birthdays, canceled dates. Overnight drives. I had poured myself into these people like I was some endless jug of grace. They emptied me, then pretended I'd never been full to begin with. I stood, pacing, breath shallow, fists clenched. They didn't just forget me, they erased me. This wasn't neglect. This was narrative. I walked to the bathroom, stood in front of the mirror. My eyes were red, but there was a steadiness behind them, the kind that only comes after you've accepted something hard. Maya Angelou's voice echoed in my mind, something I once wrote on a post-it note and stuck to my fridge. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. I stared at myself. They showed me. I opened the drawer, pulled out the letter I had written, the one meant to go with the trust fund, the one with the soft words, the gratitude, folded it in half, again, then fed it to the shredder. It made this ugly grinding sound, almost too loud for my tiny apartment, but satisfying. I walked back to my desk, opened my laptop, made a new folder. Operation Reset. Inside it, I started dragging files. The reservation receipt for the restaurant, the florist confirmation, $600 non-refundable, screenshots of Raina's video, paused on the quote, a screen capture of Max's smug toast to drama-free celebrations. I typed dates, times, noted who sent what. Then I opened another tab, found my lawyer's contact. I left a voicemail. Hey, just wondering, how much of a gift is a gift if it hasn't been delivered yet? Call me back. Then I sat in the quiet. They wanted to write me out of the story. Fine, but I'll take the pen now. Before I lost the nerve, I opened the family group chat, typed, saw the video. Powerful edit. Thanks for making it so easy to remember who I am now. I hit send. I closed the laptop, hands trembling. The video slideshow faded, but its echo was still loud in my mind. Pictures I picked, moments I helped arrange, all moments I thought were safe, were gone. Edited out. Slideshow after slideshow, eyes met, but mine weren't seen. That slice of truth sunk in deeper than I expected. I sat in my home office, papers scattered. Old emails I saved about invitations, receipts for those folded napkins I insisted on. They were there. Maybe to someone else. Just documents. To me, they were proof. I opened the itinerary PDF saved weeks ago. Guest of honor, Mallory. There was no room for my name. I all but traced my ticket in the decoration receipts. Royal blue ribbon, leaf-folded napkins, floral centerpieces, my name on invoices, on the confirmation emails. I felt betrayal, sharp and quiet, the kind that leaves you shaking. Later, a family video call was scheduled. Lizzie said it was to share memories. I joined. Faces smiling in living rooms, siblings with wine, mom lighting candles. Mallory's voice warm as she speaks of how much easier this anniversary turned out. I say, careful. I notice something missing. Mallory laughs it off, eyes cold. You always overthink. That moment, humiliation edged toward anger. I saw their eyes flick. Mine dropped. That night, in my bedroom, the mirror reflected more than face. It held years of silence. I remembered Maya Angelou's line. There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. I wondered, should I speak up in anger? Should I walk away and never return? I thought about everything I gave, time, money, love, and how none of it was enough to keep me from being invisible. I decided I deserved better, that dignity meant response, not retaliation. I returned to my desk, opened a folder I labeled Truth Revealed. I gathered screenshots, itinerary showing guest of honor switch, video stills showing family toasts, photo slides missing me. I drafted a message to Father, Lizzie, Mallory. I want clarity about my place in our history. I looped Raina in. Do you remember when you asked me about caterers? It wasn't revenge. It was definition. My finger hovered over send. I pressed it. Breath caught. My phone vibrated. A reply from Mallory appeared. You don't get to rewrite memories. Those words landed cold. But for the first time in a long time, I felt seen. Not in their eyes, but in mine. I arrived at the cafe just after 2 p.m., early enough to settle nerves. The place smelled like roasted coffee and old books. I picked the table by the window, the one I used years back when Mallory and I did our math tutoring together. I wore a plain blouse, no jewelry, no showiness, and I held my folder close. The message I sent to Raina and Mallory said, "Let's talk, just us three. No flirting, no threat, just necessity." When Raina walked in, her shoulders stiffened. Mallory's lips tightened. The waitress slid water across, and there it was, a moment pregnant with tension. Raina ordered first, a latte. Mallory asked for tea. I nodded when the waitress left, opened my folder quietly, laid out photos, receipts, screenshots. "This is what I paid for," I said. "This is what I helped build. And this?" I pointed to a still from the party slideshow. The cake, the decorations, they look like mine, but they speak Mallory's name. "This is what you erased." Raina laughed, but lax. "You always make things dramatic. We didn't do this to hurt you." Mallory chimed in. "We were just keeping it simple. You always complicate things." I looked at them, not angry, calmer than I've been. "I simplify things by doing the work. You got credit for it." I told them about the 2LMM trust paperwork I'd been finalizing that day, what kept me away, and how every cent I invested was tracked. Their faces changed. They realized it wasn't about drama. It was about truth. I placed a printed message on the table. "I'm not your scapegoat anymore." I spelled out my boundaries. No more group chats mocking me, no more contributions in silence. "You're free to keep rewriting the past, but I will never again fund it." I stood, took a long sip of coffee, let the silence stretch. You wanted me to disappear quietly, but quiet doesn't mean weak. Outside, the sun warmed the sidewalk. Leaves rustled. I walked out without turning back. My phone buzzed. Raina's name glowed. Her message: "You think this makes you the hero? We can play this game too." I watched the words. I did not respond. I turned the key, got in, and breathing felt like claiming air for the first time in a long while. The sun hadn't fully set, but my apartment already felt like late evening. The light was softer, quieter. I sat by my desk with the window cracked open, warm breeze rolling in, still tinged with summer. My laptop was open, my files stacked neatly beside it. Slideshow screenshots, receipts with my name, group chat logs, and the PDF itinerary that erased me like I'd never existed. I started typing. The subject line read, "Clarifying my place in our history." Short, clean. The tone, not angry, just exact. I wrote, "I have questions about my exclusion from the family slideshow and itinerary. I would appreciate public transparency regarding the materials and intentions. Please confirm which documents will be made available to the rest of the family." Then I attached the files, side-by-side evidence, and reread every line. No blame, just truth. I pressed send, exhaled, then just stared at the blinking cursor. I waited. First few minutes, I tried distracting myself with some old jazz, but even Coltrane couldn't drown the tension crawling up my spine. My phone sat on the windowsill. I kept checking it every 5 minutes like a fool. The read receipts showed up, blue checks beside every name. They saw it, but no reply. It's funny how silence can be louder than any insult. An hour later, my screen lit up again. This time, a family group video call invite. Lizzie, my mother. She titled it, "Sharing Memories." I clicked in. The faces showed up one by one. My father nodded. Mallory gave that tight-lipped smile she always wears when she's playing polite. Raina looked half-interested, scrolling on her phone. "Thank you all for coming," Lizzie began. "Just wanted to share some photos again, bring back some warmth." I waited until she was done sharing the same doctored slideshow. Then I spoke. Calm, even. "Before we move on, I want to acknowledge the message I sent earlier." They all paused. I shared my screen, opened the folder, clicked through the receipts, my name, decorations, venue deposit, slideshow photos, side by side. Then the itinerary. Mallory sighed. "You're making trouble over nothing." I looked straight at her. "No. I'm asking why I've been written out of our family's history." My father looked away. Lizzie blinked, once, twice. "This isn't drama. This is clarity." Lizzie began to speak. "I'm sure there's a reasonable—" But her words slurred. Her face went pale. She reached for her chest. Then she slumped out of frame. I didn't move. Mallory screamed, "Mom!" Dad disappeared from the camera. The screen shook. Raina gasped. The call ended abruptly. I sat there, frozen. Not because I didn't care, but because something inside me knew this wasn't just shock. This was guilt crashing through the front door of denial. I didn't sleep that night, just sat with the echo of her collapse in my head. Was it real? Or a card she'd played too late? Didn't matter now. I reviewed every contract tied to the Parks Foundation and our family fund. I paused all future transfers, locked donations behind requirements of full acknowledgement. I texted Raina, "Prepare the release." She replied with a single thumbs up. Then, after midnight, I plugged my phone in to back up my messages. That's when I saw it, an unsaved voice memo. Time-stamped during the call. I clicked it. Mallory's voice. "She'll never show up in what matters. Clear as day. No hesitation, no guilt. Just a whisper of cruelty behind a smile." I didn't cry. I didn't scream. But something inside me shifted. And this time, it didn't crack. It had been a week since the call. A week since Lizzie fainted and Mallory's whisper got caught in the recording I never meant to make. Now I was driving up the old road to my parents' house. Same cracked pavement, same oak trees that always swayed too hard in late summer wind. And yet, everything felt different. The driveway was full. Cars I recognized. Uncle Tom's red truck, Aunt Evelyn's Subaru, neighbors we'd known since I was a kid. Some stood near the porch, chatting softly. I stepped out of my car, purse in hand. I felt it before I saw it. The shift. Conversations slowed. Eyes lingered a second longer. Some smiled awkwardly, others turned away. One woman, Mrs. Lang, gave me a half nod, like we shared a secret I hadn't realized. Mom met me at the door. Her hug was tight but cold. Mallory, standing behind her, wore that same curated expression, smile with no warmth. I said nothing, just walked in, noticing every little detail, folded leaf napkins on the table. Again. I paused, swallowed, kept walking. Dinner was pot roast, potatoes, salad that looked untouched. The air was tense but coated with forced civility. It was Lizzie who broke it. "You know," she said, slicing her roast, "you always waited too long to speak up." Mallory picked up without missing a beat. "If you had just said something sooner, everyone would have listened." I set my fork down. They kept talking like I wasn't there. I didn't cry. I didn't flinch. I pulled a small folder from my bag and laid it on the table. Quietly, not dramatic, I flipped it open, slid the printed receipts forward. My name on venue payments, photos I took, screenshots of the slideshow file history. I looked Lizzie in the eye. "I did say something. Multiple times. You just didn't listen." For a moment, nobody spoke. That's when Raina cleared her throat. "Actually, this isn't the first time Mallory erased someone." Mallory's eyes narrowed. "What the hell are you talking about?" Raina sat back, calm. "Remember Grandpa's 80th? You cut Evelyn out of the tribute video. Said her dress clashed." Uncle Tom's head snapped up. "And your own bridal shower," Raina went on. "You gave credit to Emily for the flowers, but it was Aileen who drove 3 hours to pick them up." Aunt Evelyn crossed her arms, lips tight. Mallory's voice cracked. "That's ancient history." Raina pulled up her phone. "This is from 2 years ago." She tapped it, and a text thread lit up on screen. Mallory's name above messages detailing event plans she'd claimed credit for, plans I'd organized. Mallory looked sick. I took a breath, leaned in just a little. I've done more than wait. I've built, funded, and supported. I don't need applause, but I will not keep letting you rewrite history while I foot the bill. They all stared. I didn't rush. I won't be paying for another event unless my contributions are acknowledged, publicly. And I mean that in writing. I'm not doing this for drama. I'm doing this because respect isn't optional. Silence. Dad looked down at his plate. Lizzie's cheeks went pink, eyes watering. Mallory shot back, "You're blowing this out of proportion." But then I heard it. Murmurs. From cousins, from older relatives who had sat quietly for too long. One woman whispered, "That's true. I remember the flower thing." Raina nodded, folded her arms. "It's not just this once. It's a pattern." The room shifted. Just slightly, but enough. When dinner ended, I didn't linger. I stepped out into the night, the porch light casting a soft yellow glow. My heels clicked softly on the stone walkway, and there, near the end of the driveway, stood Mrs. Lang. She wasn't talking, wasn't trying to catch up. She was holding up her phone, not obviously, just enough. Recording, not the kind of recording you do for the drama. The kind you do when truth is finally said out loud and you don't want to forget what it sounded like. I met her eyes. She didn't flinch. Neither did I. I arrived early at the community center. The hall smelled faintly of wood polish and stage curtains. People milled in, neighbors I recognized, family friends, even co-workers of my father who smiled politely. I wore a charcoal dress, solid, no flashy jewelry. My hands trembled a little when I hung up my coat. I paused by the curtain, looked over the room, speech podium, rows of chairs, a screen mounted behind it. The stage was set. I thought, tonight they'll see. Lights dimmed, applause died. The screen flickered on. First image, Mallory whispering off camera so soft I leaned in. Her face half lit. She said, if only she'd stay quiet, nobody would notice much difference. A hush rippled through the crowd. I saw my receipts flash, my name next to decorations, my design choices shown. Faces shifted. Lizzie's lips pressed tight. Mallory froze. Betrayal poured through the speakers. I felt all the past drop in a single moment. Shock. Raw. A betrayal laid bare. After the clip ended, my father came up to express appreciation. He smiled, held up a thank you letter. I stood quietly, heart locked, mind fast. When he handed the letter to Mom, I took a breath. Actually, I want to read this. Voice steady. I read every line, every falsified attributing of work that was mine to Mallory. The words sounded wrong, like a mirror cracked. The audience stiffened. Mallory's cheeks reddened. Lizzie's eyes glistened. I could taste moral clarity, bitter and powerful. Mallory tried to interrupt, calling me dramatic, attention-seeking. My father stuttered through a few disclaimers. I thought, Lizzie's voice trailed off. Then a cousin stood, firm. I saw Eileen doing all the planning. Murmurs spread. Older folks nodded. Mallory sputtered. I watched her facade crumble. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I simply held out the signed receipts that matched what I said. The truth in my hands. I stepped down from the stage. Not quietly, but not angrily either. Placed those receipts on the podium, announced, this gift I planned, the $2 million trust, will remain hidden unless Mallory acknowledges my contribution publicly. The room was heavy. Some clapped, some remained silent. Faces shifted. I could see it. Integrity had weight, and I left them with it. Late that night, I was back in my apartment, windows open. I got a notification. Mallory's confession clip had been shared online, thousands of views, comments. Finally, someone spoke truth. I always wondered why these photos felt wrong. My chest thumped. A stranger messaged, you deserve to be seen. I trembled. Weak, but real. The cold had settled in Boston. Late February meant frost along the riverbank, thin ice at the edges of the Charles. I sat near the window of my apartment, small but mine. A mug of chamomile steeped on the sill, steam rising. From here, the water looked still, but I knew underneath it moved. That was me too, still on the surface, but not stagnant. After everything, the video, the letter, the awkward silences, I wasn't angry anymore. I was clear. There was pain, sure. Betrayal doesn't vanish just because you accept it. But the clarity was its own kind of healing. Maya Angelou had said it better than anyone. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. I had wasted years hoping for an apology that never came. I didn't need it anymore. I used to daydream about reconciliation dinners, family trips, shared laughter. Not now. I was done building bridges across swamps. Instead, I was building something solid, something mine. The Eileen Parks initiative wasn't born out of spite. It came from something deeper, the need to make meaning. I funneled the entire $2 million into it. That money had been intended for family events, some illusion of legacy. But what legacy meant to me had changed. This was about financial literacy for young women, especially those overlooked like I'd been. I didn't announce it to my family. They'd given up the right to celebrate beside me. I called in people who mattered, colleagues who saw me when I was invisible, professors who believed in my voice before I found it. They helped build the foundation, literally and figuratively. I didn't want a nonprofit in my family's name. I wanted it in mine. It wasn't about ego, it was about truth. The launch night wasn't lavish. No flower walls, no champagne towers, just folding chairs, coffee in paper cups, a microphone that squeaked once, then steadied. People showed up. People who'd never met me, but felt like they knew what it meant to be dismissed. I took the stage and told the truth, not just mine, but the broader one. I talked about erasure, about money, about legacy. I read a page from an old journal. You don't need to be remembered by people who never saw you. A teenager in the third row wiped her eyes. Later, she told me, I've never seen a woman like me in charge before. That night wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming my place, not in their story, but in mine. A few days later, a letter arrived, handwritten, a little uneven, postmarked from my hometown. It was from Lizzie, my niece, the one who always hid behind her mom's shadow. I'm sorry I stayed quiet, she wrote. You were always the one I looked up to. Inside, she'd tucked a drawing she made from photos of the event, a sketch of me at the podium, my face in the center. Around it, hands reaching out. It stopped me. Legacy, it seemed, didn't always follow straight lines. Sometimes it skipped generations, found new soil. I haven't written back. Not yet. Not because I'm mad, but because some things are better digested slowly. Silence can be fertile, too. One evening, I logged into the old community forum. Someone had started a thread called The One Who Spoke Up. I expected mockery. Instead, I saw hundreds of comments. You helped me confront my sister. I donated because of your story. I didn't think anyone like me could walk away from family and still stand tall. I leaned back in my chair. The $2 million wasn't the point anymore. It never really had been. What mattered was that it became something bigger than what was broken. I wasn't fixing anything. I was starting over. At the after-party, small, mostly volunteers and students, someone asked me if I'd ever talk to my parents again. I looked out the window. The frost had melted. Just a little. I answered without turning back. If they ever walk through a door I built, not one they broke down,